Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, Big Changes Coming to AdWords, Everything That You Need to Know. My name is Michelle, and I'm just here to get things started before I pass things off to today's expert. So, before we get into the content for today, a little bit more about who we are as WordStream. So a lot of you may know us for just our thought leadership and all of the free content that we put out there in the world of online advertising. But we also offer a paid platform that can help you very easily grow your AdWords, Bing, and Facebook campaigns. It's a search marketing software, and it's really, really great. So definitely following today's webinar while you're checking out some of our content, for sure take a look at our software too, start a free trial, anything, and see how that can work for your business. Okay, and a couple of logistics before I pass things off. So we will be recording today's webinar. So definitely take a look in your inbox following the presentation, and you'll receive an email coming from our presenter, Mark, and it will have a recording as well as a slide deck. We'll also encourage you to be conversational and join in on Twitter. You have Mark's handle right there, so definitely be sure to tweet at him. Loves to get tweets. He'll definitely respond. And finally, really, really important, we really like to cater our content to you specifically and your accounts and the questions that you have. So feel free to include those questions along the way, and we will definitely save time to get to those at the end of the webinar. And without further ado, my favorite part of every webinar is getting to introduce my good friend Mark. Mark is a senior data scientist here at WordStream. He has 5 years of experience in paid search, and he was recently voted the 14th most influential PPC expert of 2016. Mark is the best of the best. He's an absolute pro, and you guys could not be in better hands to hear about Google's big announcements. So with that, Mark, I pass it off to you.
Michelle, I love your introduction so much. I could listen to this all day, and I know you're just going to keep getting me back by stroking my ego like that. So thank you. Thank you so much. But also thanks everyone for attending today. Obviously, I've got a lot to talk about. The reason being for that is that for the past 2 days now, I've been out in California. I'm attending Google's Marketing Next conference. And so this event, if there is one single event every year that you need to be at or hear about in terms of what's happening at Google and all of their marketing channels across AdWords, across DoubleClick, across Google Analytics, this is the very sole single event in which Google announces everything that they're going to be working on for the rest of 2017. And it's a pretty VIP guest list, I'm not going to lie. The attendees are from the 200 top agencies, top partners, and top press outlets from around the world. And I knew that walking in here, but it was kind of a surreal event when I get here. I ended up, of course, speaking to people from companies such as Amazon or Jet or Walmart while I'm out here. And then there's me and my SMB focus and their press outlets from across the globe just here. So while I'm out here, I literally was sitting between someone who was from Amsterdam and then a translator for someone who made the trip all the way from Japan. So definitely an exciting event, and thrilled to say that WordStream was among one of the attendees. This is actually my first time making it out to the event, and it was a whirlwind. So WordStream was there, actually front row and center. So all of these slides that you're going to see, all these pictures are from my personal cell phone. I don't claim to be a photographer, and I don't claim to be anything else. So pardon some of the picture quality, but I wanted to make sure that I could get this content to you and all of this news to you guys as soon as possible. And so the event, it started off officially on Monday. The big announcements all happened on Tuesday, but immediately after this, I'm going to go downstairs. I'm currently in my hotel room right above the conference. I'm going to go downstairs, and there's, in addition to the 200 partners, advertisers, and press contacts that are here, there's also 200 product managers from Google. who are here to talk to us about exactly what the roadmap looks like and solicit our feedback, get our questions, and get answers to them. So if you have questions to any of these things, or you have feedback that you want to pass on, please, there's going to be plenty of time at the end for Q&A, and I actually personally would really appreciate to hear these questions so that then I can follow up with our friends at Google while I'm out here. But so, this event last year, the big focus was on ad formats. And so last year, this is the event at which Google announced a number of new ad formats. And these are all things that you guys are familiar with. Last year, Google announced the Google Map ads. They announced responsive display ads, but they also announced the expanded text ad format. And so ETAs, this is something that I'm sure you guys have heard about ad nauseum at this point, but that was the biggest change in AdWords in 16 years. And so it was a very exciting event last year. Everyone was really excited about all these different ad formats that were going to be available to all kinds of advertisers. But following that excitement, once we got access to these things, we saw that there was a lot of mixed results from these ad formats for a number of advertisers. On average, advertisers saw a click-through rate boost between 15 and 20%, transitioning from standard text ads to expanded text ads. But that kind of average gain wasn't experienced by everyone. We saw that 1 out of 3, so a minority, but still a fairly large minority, of English-speaking advertisers within our client base struggled making that transition to expanded text ads, and often saw a decreased click-through rate after making that transition. And so while on average, yes, people saw great benefits from these new ad formats, they weren't flawless, and that a number of people still struggled. And not only did a number of advertisers struggle, but almost universally, there were certain segments of their audiences that didn't perform all that well with these new expanded text ads. So looking throughout all of 2016, we've seen that for years, mobile click-through rate has been on the rise, that people have consistently gotten better at writing ad copy for mobile devices, creating mobile preferred standard text ads, really getting their best practices and really being able to do well on mobile. But then halfway through 2016, in late July, early August, mobile click-through rates for new ads really began to struggle. And a lot of that we're attributing to the fact that ETAs were released at the end of July, and that a lot of new text ads, a lot of new ads that were created after July were these ETAs, which didn't have the ability to customize text initially for mobile devices. And so we see that there was a lot of struggle creating mobile ads after these announcements last year. So with all that in mind, this year Google didn't introduce that many new ad formats to the mix. We saw last year that a number of these ad formats, while exciting, were not universally good for all advertisers. Instead, what Google is focused on so far is they're introduced new ad improvements that should be good for all advertisers so that we can reach better audiences and convert those users better. And so this doesn't have the announcements that are coming out today. They're not the shiny new ad formats. I'm not here to announce a new expanded or a jumbo expanded or a giant masthead ad to the SERP. I'm not here to announce new images or anything exciting like that coming to the SERP. Instead, I want to talk about the announcements that are going to make us all smarter marketers and more effective marketers. So whereas last year there was a whole lot of new stuff in terms of things that we would see, different ad formats, there's going to be a lot that I'm going to talk about in terms of audience solutions and how to convert and give users a better experience. And so that's kind of my forte. Honestly, I'm thrilled that my first year, this is the focus of all of this stuff while we're out here. And I really want to dive into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is Google's given us new powerful remarketing audiences. And it was originally a little underplayed at the event. I'm not seeing a lot of other channels talking about it all that much. But today, if you were to create a remarketing campaign, the way that that would work is that you would tag people who come to your website, you'd show them ads across the display network, across YouTube, across Gmail, or you'd use RLSA to target them on the search, on the Google search. And so all of that has always historically relied on people arriving at your website. And so while that is, of course, an obvious statement to all of us today, that's still a challenge in itself. If you talk to your SEO team, or if you talk to anyone, even as a paid search marketer, it costs money to get people to your site. It takes a lot of time to build a following, to build an audience of 1,000 people to just get to your site. But we know that there's so many more people that we could potentially reach that are already interested in our brand. Well, so Google is actually making a big announcement, or made a big announcement, that they're integrating the top 2 search engines in the world to pair together to make more powerful remarketing audiences. So the most popular search engine in the world, I'm not going to build this one up. You guys know it. It's Google. And that's why you guys are here today. But the second most popular search engine in the world is surprising to a lot of people. You might think of our partners at Microsoft. You might think of our partners at Yahoo. You might think of some of popular international search engines like Yandex in Russia or Baidu in China. But we actually know that the second most popular search engine in the world happens to be YouTube. And so the YouTube audience is, first of all, a very involved audience. It's a very large audience. There's very few competitors to, or large competitors to a platform like YouTube. But also, YouTube audiences spend a whole lot more time running searches on YouTube than they do all those other networks, all those other search engines combined. And so pairing these 2 audiences together, Google's own search network as well as YouTube's own search network, we're going to be able to create YouTube and search audiences. And so now we can target people who have watched our videos or who have watched our YouTube ads directly on Google by using remarketing lists for search ads. And so this kind of breaks a paradigm shift that we've been so used to. Now that remarketing includes YouTube visitors, I no longer need to rely on people just arriving at my site. That if people are viewing my content on YouTube as well, as many people do, I can now also remarket to them on Google. And so these video viewers are a powerful audience segment. Yesterday, a few stats that came out of this are that over 50% of internet users look to videos for a product before they even visit a store. And so that's a pretty meaningful thing. We know that the YouTube audience is a large audience. And so 50% of them are there specifically just searching for reviews or experiences related to products that they're already in market to consider. So if you're looking to buy a new laptop, or if you're looking to buy a new product, in the past we've always said that it was important to have online reviews, but it is increasingly important to have that kind of online video content rather than just that online web content. And we see that users who click on a YouTube ad are 25% more likely to make a purchase and on average spend 10% more. And so those are some powerful stats. So not only is this a large audience, but this is also a particularly valuable audience. Someone who has done the research of going on YouTube, watching your ad, or being exposed to your video, we know that they're considerably more likely, they're a more informed user, and when they do come to Google to search, they're much more likely to make a purchase and spend more money with you as a result. And YouTube audiences, using WordStream proprietary data, looking at our client base, we see the fact that customers who begin advertising on YouTube or begin creating content on YouTube, in the following months, people who see their YouTube videos are in fact more than 4 times likely to actually come back and run a branded search for that product. So YouTube doesn't exist in a vacuum anymore. We see the fact that people freely may start their customer journey on the SERP, or they may start on YouTube and then later come to Google and finish that search. And so we can really begin to integrate our YouTube audiences within our search campaigns to make them all that more powerful and to convert people who have already begun that process on YouTube. So this is fairly powerful, but I think that even more powerful than this, we're now going to have additional remarketing audience insights in our campaigns. And so for years, digital marketing has been hailed as a beautiful place where we can measure almost everything that happens with our campaigns. I can see how many people are shown this custom mountain bikes ad. I can see how many people click on it. I can measure their click-through rate. I can even see how many people come through and make a conversion after clicking on this. And I can measure their conversion rate, their costs, see all these segments about them. But what I've never been able to do, and what we've all asked, is specifically, why did these users convert on this ad? Or why didn't these users convert? So we've always been able to measure who has converted and who hasn't, and we've been able to come up with theories and test different landing pages and test different ad copy. There's been a lot of tools available for us to test our theories towards all of this, but what we've never been able to get is we've never been able to answer the question why directly. And so I'm really excited. Google introduced remarketing integration into their Surveys 360's tool. So Survey 360 has been a tool. It's been primarily used for brand advertisers for a good amount of time, but with remarketing integration, we can begin to use this for more ROI-focused decisions. And so specifically, what we can do with this is we can now pose some surveys to people specifically within our remarketing lists. So I can look at people who have clicked on this ad, and I can ask them a very simple question. And I can ask them a question like, what's the most important to you when buying a bike online? And by looking at their responses across our converting audiences versus our non-converting audiences, I can get a lot of valuable insight in terms of why did someone convert on my site versus why someone didn't. And so here I can see the fact that, okay, people who converted on this ad really value this customized options or the fact that this was on sale. But looking at this larger audience, and you're typically going to have a much larger audience of non-converters, and this is more meaningful data, I'd argue. We can ask them specifically, well, what do they value that I didn't provide? And so here, looking across this cohort, I see a lot of people mention free shipping as their most important thing when buying a bike online. And using insight from that large non-converting audience, I can pass that insight along to my paid search marketing team, but I can also pass it along to my CEO or my CMO and really begin to make decisions around how do I market not just on AdWords, but across Google and across Bing and across my business as a whole, really, to decide exactly how am I going to position my product, how am I going to promote my product, and what sales or offerings am I going to promote within all my ads. So knowing this insight, I could later create an ad that looked like this, where instead of promoting that sale, I promoted that free shipping that so many of my audiences asked for. And knowing that, I should hopefully expect more people to click, respond, and convert on my ad. And so this is powerful not just from an AdWords perspective, but just from a business perspective, that here Google is connecting us with the ability to get meaningful data for a business as a whole. And that's really powerful, and it's only going to be possible with this remarketing integration within AdWords. Now, that's going to do a lot for your remarketing audiences, but there's so many new audiences that haven't yet been to your site before. And so the third thing that I want to talk about today is I want to talk about in-market audiences. And so Google's actually had in-market audiences on the display network for some time. They were first introduced in 2013 after the enhanced campaign migration. And advertisers were able to serve display ads across YouTube, across Gmail, across the display network to users who have some characteristics of being in market for a certain product or service. So if I were consistently doing searches about cars, new cars online, I go to automax.com, or I'm consistently looking at different car review videos online, that kind of stuff, Google could fairly easily identify the fact that I was specifically doing a lot of searches for new cars, and I could be in market to buy a new car, and then consequently I would get served an ad across the display network for different cars that were available to me. And this has previously been just on the display network. Well, now Google is making that connection to the search network as well. And they're introducing in-market audiences for search ads. So knowing the fact that I have all of this behavior around me that says that I'm in market for a new product can help me cater my ad or help me cater my reach in my search campaigns so I can make smarter, better decisions. And I know this may sound like a little bit of a foreign concept because obviously someone who's in market is currently searching for the same kinds of keywords. So how can we apply this to our campaigns? And so I'm going to use a real life example, and I'm going to pick on Michelle for just a little bit. But right before I left Boston, Michelle and I were having a conversation about how she's really frustrated with her old laptop, and she is looking to buy a new laptop. And so very reasonably, Michelle and I, we could search for the very same kind of query online. We could search for the term MacBook Pro 13-inch. And we were very similar demographic, we're very similar location, we could be searching on the same devices. Today, we would likely be treated the same way with the exact same keyword search. But we're not the same person. And we know that Michelle isn't going to buy, do one search online for a laptop and then click and buy immediately. We know that a purchase like this, if I were to go through Michelle's complete search history, I'm sure that she's done a good number of searches for related terms, whereas I have not. So Michelle likely has searched for things like new laptops or MacBook models or MacBook Pro specs, or maybe she's doing a few reviews online, or maybe she's on YouTube looking at different reviews that people have posted online there, or maybe she's browsing a number of different sites. And so knowing the fact that this isn't Michelle's first search for this kind of product, or this isn't her first time browsing this kind of product, we can identify Michelle as specifically in market for that new laptop, that her fifth or her sixth search is appreciably more valuable than her first or my first, even if it's on the same keyword. And so using this insight, us as advertisers can use the fact that Michelle is consistently searching for this kind of product. We can cater our ads a little bit differently to Michelle, or we could choose to target Michelle separately so that anytime she searched for any kind of laptop, my ad showed up. Whereas you might not want to go that broad with all of your audiences. Or in the very least, we could create a bid adjustment for Michelle. And we could bid more aggressively for Michelle and users like her, knowing that she's in market for our specific product or service, rather than me, who might honestly just be browsing. And so in-market audiences are potentially huge for advertisers, particularly advertisers who have a long time to sales cycle. So things in which you're going to have a lot of searches online, things around laptops, but also around real estate, around cars, around going back to school, around travel. There's a number of powerful in-market audiences for us to capitalize with here and treat our audiences slightly differently, knowing the fact that they have that pre-existing search intent rather than it just being their first time searching. And so in-market audiences, I'm really excited about this. for the next year. I think that this is one of the more powerful tools that they announced yesterday, but I also want to talk about something that may be even more powerful. And that's that they introduced life event and consumer pattern targeting. If there were a marquee announcement yesterday, I'd argue that this is it. And so yesterday, they announced that coming soon, advertisers will have the ability to target users based off of major life events or major life milestones that they're experiencing, such as users who are about to or recently got married, or about to or recently graduate college, or about to or recently moved. Knowing the fact that these major milestones in our life, we have different kinds of search and browsing behaviors and shopping behaviors, rather than when we're not approaching one of these milestones. Very similarly, consumer patterns. What does that mean? It also means that we'll be able to target users based off of the kinds of day-to-day lives that they live. We'd be able to target users differently based off of the fact that they frequently dine out, whether or not they frequently visit coffee shops, whether or not they eat out at lunch frequently, or whether or not they choose not to cook at home and they go out to dinner more frequently, or they get takeout more frequently than the average user. And we can cater our ads accordingly. Or users who frequently visit salons or shop at different types of stores. So we know that someone who's shopping at a big box store like Walmart or Target is slightly different than someone who shops at a high-end department store. And we can begin to cater our ads slightly differently, knowing that that's how they choose to shop online as well. Very frequently, we can also target people who attend live events, concerts, conferences, all of that stuff, rather than people who choose to watch TV or not attend such live events. Knowing the fact that they're more likely to be in market for different types of products or have different kinds of patterns in their life. And so I think that a lot of this stuff can be really meaningful when you think about who is going to be making these purchases. And so there's a joke. I'm very aware of the joke back in Boston, but a lot of my team, I've been made aware that a lot of my team keeps track and will silently pick on me because they say that I can't get through a meeting without bringing up a part of my life for the past couple of months. And so just so that my team back in Boston is very happy, I'm going to bring it up in this webinar. And that's that I can't get through a meeting without talking about the fact that I'm recently engaged and I'm getting married soon. I'm obviously very excited about it. My team would say that I can't shut up about it, but tough luck. It's going to happen. So that's me and my fiance. We are getting married in just under 4 months now. The big date is September 22nd. Not that you guys are necessarily going to mark that on your calendars, but if you want to, go for it. But absolutely, I'm very excited. And consequently, though, there's a lot of stuff that's changing just because I'm getting married soon. And so whereas a year ago, my typical weekends would be, spent going out or going out, hanging out with my boyfriend at the time, or seeing a show or whatever is going on. Now my weekends are spent a little bit differently because I have to plan a wedding. And so now I have to go about the process of finding a venue and hiring a caterer and a DJ and a photographer and buying invites and booking a hotel block and a suit. I have to plan a honeymoon, which means I'm going to have to book a flight and hotel and get things to do. And also I'm going to build a wedding registry. So I'm looking at things like sheets and vacuum cleaners and dishes and things that, like, honestly, I wouldn't care about a year ago in the slightest. That these are not things that you would expect a typical person to spend a whole lot of time searching for this kind of stuff online. But here it is, and this is what my weekends are like right now. Basically, the long story of this is that I'm going to buy a whole lot of stuff that I am not, or I would typically not be interested in if I were not getting married soon. And consequently, because I am, one big credit card and throwing my money around every place for the next couple of months, you as advertisers can take advantage of that. That sounds wrong, but feel free, take advantage of it. And serve me an ad for a DJ or for a venue or for a new suit, all new rings, all of this stuff. I'm currently in market for it based off of the fact that I'm getting married soon. And so there's a lot of powerful stuff that we can do. Knowing the fact that people who are getting married or who have recently gotten married have different browsing behaviors and different shopping needs than those who haven't, or people who are moving or graduating college are going to have very different types of needs because of that part of their life rather than people who haven't. And so this is, my personal, and again, I may be biased in the fact that this hits close to me right now and where I am in my life, but if I were to make an argument, I'd say that this is probably the biggest announcement that they made yesterday. That this ability to target users based off of what's going on in their life is really the end goal of all of our marketing efforts anyways. And so we can really begin to use this kind of life event targeting to serve us ads across YouTube and Gmail in the following year so that we can begin to really take advantage of users who are much more likely to buy different products or services. And so those are our big audience announcements from yesterday. Obviously, who you're reaching is important for your marketing, but how you reach them is just about equally important. And so the fifth announcement from yesterday relates to how you engage people online, specifically on their mobile pages. And so yesterday, they announced accelerated mobile pages, or AMP pages, for PPC. And so we know that users online, particularly on their mobile devices can have slower load times just because of the amount of content that they have to load on a smaller screen and because of the data in which they need to literally communicate from space and back. And because of that increased load time, we see that increased load time on mobile pages can more than double the bounce rate of your site. So we see that mobile users are appreciably less likely to continue to navigate on their site because it takes them longer to load a page. That mobile users are specifically looking for things, they expect them faster than they do expect them on desktop, and that an increased load time on your mobile site can really hurt the bottom line of your site. We see that for every additional second of load time, we expect 20% fewer conversions from the site as a result. So I know that 1 second is such a quick measurement and that can seem very distant and honestly overwhelming of how to begin to attack that problem with your existing mobile site. So about 14 months ago, Google introduced accelerated mobile pages, or AMP, for organic results. And so what is an AMP, or what is an accelerated mobile page? They're created and cached so that they load almost instantly from the Google search results page. And so this may be a little bit difficult for me to demonstrate on the webinar directly. But so what I'd encourage you to do is I would encourage you guys to pull out your cell phones and do a Google search for WordStream. And you'd likely see a number of organic results with WordStream, blogs, our website, all of that stuff. And next to each one of those organic results, you're going to see that little electric bolt symbol, and it might say AMP next to it. And if you were to click on that organic listing, it will load almost instantly directly on the Google search result page. So it actually doesn't send you to the wordstream.com page. It loads directly inline on the Google SERP, and it loads instantly. So although it may still take you a couple of seconds if you were to type in wordstream.com into your browser for that page to load, the AMP page from Google loads instantly. And you're seeing a lot of major publishers, you're seeing a lot of websites get wise to using AMP pages organically. To date, over 2 million publishers have created AMP pages. Well, given that success, Google is rolling out AMP landing pages to be supported by paid search ads. So now you'll be able to automatically, almost instantaneously, load your landing page from your paid search ads through an AMP page on the Google search result page. The result is that this is going to improve load speeds significantly for mobile users. And that's going to increase your retention, it's going to decrease your bounce rate, but it's going to increase your conversions and also improve your landing page experience. Landing page experience being a notable factor of quality score. And so Google didn't skirt around this or shy away from this. Google openly announced yesterday that AMP pages, assuming that they work positively for your site, are going to help improve your quality score. Your quality score, of course, is a major factor in ad rank, and you'll be able to see that improvements in quality score, such as creating AMP pages, are going to increase your ad rank, increase your quality score, improve your position on Google, while simultaneously having what you pay Google in terms of cost per click decrease. So AMP pages are particularly powerful here. I'm excited for this to enter beta and more people to adopt it, just because I'm seeing such positive results from the existing organic AMP pages, as well as the select number of advertisers that I already have running these AMP landing pages with their paid search results. This is probably the single most powerful thing that you can do to increase your conversions on Google today. But it's not just about paid search ads. We're seeing that AMP ads are also coming to the display network as well. So, frustrating thing that you might see on the display network these days, particularly on your phone. If you were to go to the New York Times, if you were to go to a different news site, or if you were just browse the internet, you're going to see display ads, but very frequently you might see display ads load a little bit slower than the rest of the page. That it can take an average of 5 seconds for an image ad to load on a mobile device, because right now the page loads, and then separately from that afterwards the image result loads on a mobile page. But now you're going to be able to see that AMP ads are going to load almost automatically, that they're going to be cached directly within Google itself. So now as that page loads, as will the ad, and it will load almost automatically, 5 seconds faster than those non-AMP GDN ads. And so Google is automatically going to be transitioning its existing GD ads into this AMP format, which means that display advertisers are going to see appreciably more impressions load from their display campaigns on mobile, as well as you imagine they're going to get more impressions, more clicks, and have a better experience with their mobile display ads as well. And so that's going to be positive for all advertisers, and quite frankly, all users as well. And finally, this is kind of one of the more exciting ones as well, voice search integration. And so this is something that a lot of advertisers have gotten excited about, really speculated a lot about, but there's never been a definitive answer as to how Google is going to begin to monetize voice search ads. And so that's a real big question we have to ask, because we know that, or yesterday, Google announced that 20% of searches currently occur via voice search rather than a typed query. And so that 20% of searches is not a small amount. Voice search isn't just this cute little hobby of Google's anymore. This 20% is arguably the fastest growing segment of any kind of search today. And so the big question is, how is Google going to monetize searches that come from voice search, where often these happen on devices that might not have a screen, things such as Google Home. So yesterday, one of the product managers from Google asked their Google Home device okay, Google, where can I find a snap circuit board for kids? And I'm going to pause right there for a second and point out the fact that that search is very different than how a typed search would be. That this is not going in, typing, if I were to search this on my desktop or my mobile phone, I'd likely search for just the term snap circuit boards or snap circuit boards for kids. I'd just search for the noun. I'd search for the keyword. Here we see that the query is more posed as a question, as natural languages. And then consequently, Google answers back in a more natural language. Okay, I found several products. The first is a Snap Circuit Junior board at Barnes & Noble, 2.6 miles away. They're open until 9 p.m. Would you like to get directions or hear more results? And so I'm just going to let that sink in for a second. That includes an ad in it. And that response, unless you specifically were listening for the ad, you might not recognize that Barnes & Noble paid for that result. And so a couple of things. It answers back with a local result and allows them, specifically prompts them to get directions to buy this product offline and buy it immediately. And so that's a big shift from how paid search ads or pay-per-click ads have previously worked. That we're not going to send them to a website, that we're going to prompt real-life action for this real-life query. And so that's kind of the format that Google introduced for its first iteration, at least, of voice search integration ads. So as we kind of talk about how you can begin to prepare for voice search, consider that spoken language is different. She didn't search for a keyword. She didn't say, okay, Google, snap circuit boards for kids. She asked a question. And so people are going to turn to voice search for answers to their questions, not necessarily matches to keywords. So think of, as you create content, answering questions around where, who, when, or how. Secondly, location matters. We know that voice search is going to answer those more immediate needs of how to get things immediately, often in person. So you want to make sure that Google is going to pull this information correctly from your Google My Business. Make sure that your local business information, such as address, hours, and phone number are accurate. And I highly recommend creating that Google Business My account and syncing it to AdWords to take advantage. And secondly, structured data, such as shopping feeds and local inventory ads, are going to be the easiest thing for Google to integrate into its results first, knowing the fact that it's going to have to do queries amongst things for products, for services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so your local inventory ads are going to help answer that. So make sure that your shopping feeds and your local inventory ads are correctly uploaded into Google Merchant Center and that they're up to date and accurate. And so that's a lot of stuff coming out of Google just yesterday. Of course, going to head down after this webinar to have more conversations with Google. But before we do, I want to make sure that we have time for Q&A from all of you guys. And Michelle, I believe you have a couple of offers for these people.
Absolutely, Mark. And thank you so much. All of that content. I know there was a lot of gray around what these announcements were and what they were going to mean for the folks who are online advertising today. And hopefully that cleared up a lot of that gray area for the folks on the line. Like Mark said, I do a special offer for you guys on the line. Like I said at the start of the webinar, we offer a really great software solution to everything online advertising, from AdWords to Facebook to Bing, all in one software. So if you want to talk to one of our AdWords experts, like Mark here on our team, feel free. I'm going to launch this for you. You can decide right there, chat with one of our consultants about how our software can work for your accounts. Again, that's AdWords, Facebook, Bing. So go ahead and choose that. And while you do, I will get to the questions that came in from Mark. Okay, Mark. So one question that came in quite a lot was in regards to these new the AMP pages. And the question, two-part. One, when is it live? Two, once it is live, or if it already is live, what do we have to do to set them up? Do we have to make new landing pages to take advantage of the faster speeds? Tell us more.
Sure. So today, you can create an AMP page organically for mobile. And so that's very easy to do. I defer you to Google's official website on it in terms of how to develop it. This is something that's hosted through Google, but it's open source, so anyone can go and create it. And so the official website is ampproject.org. And feel free, there's going to be a lot of tech specs. Obviously, you're going to want to meet with your webmaster in terms of how to implement this. But this is something that Google is trying to make easier because it values mobile so much. That's how you go about creating an AMP page. Right now, if you're interested in, if you have that AMP page and you're interested in using it for your paid search ads, WordStream customers, feel free to reach out to your customer success rep. It's in open beta right now. So it is one of those things, like it's in beta right now. It's fairly easy to get into, provided you have that AMP page.
Awesome. Great. And kind of a similar question, Mark. We got a lot of questions throughout the presentation on the different announcements and their specific rollout dates. Is there like an overall resource from Google that says when we can expect to see each of these announcements going live?
So there isn't an official release date for all of this stuff. This is kind of a roadmap for the next year. What I can tell you is that the AMP is probably a thing that's going to roll out more quickly. There are other of these products that are likely going to be later on in 2017. So right now, I can say that the life event and consumer targeting is currently in an alpha or pre-alpha stage. It's available to very select, very high-end advertisers. It is far from perfect in the sense that what they want to create or what they want to release to everyone. But I would expect, last year they announced demographic for search as well as similar audiences for search. And it took about 8 months and 10 months after the announcement to roll that out to people. And I'd expect, and I'm not Google, so don't quote me on this, but I expect a similar kind of rollout for that same kind of product. But keep following the WordStream blog. This is something that I obviously have a pulse on. And there will be, of course, plenty of more webinars on this stuff as it becomes available. So just keep following and we'll keep you up to date.
Awesome. And really quickly, Mark, what was that, the AMP website again?
Yep. So that was, pardon, I had it written down here, ampproject.org.
ampproject.org. Awesome. Okay. This question that came in was back to the life events. So can you just super quickly explain, so how does Google know? How is Google going to know that you're getting engaged? What are they using to find that out?
Sure. One of the things that they're talking about in terms of how they use it is that I'm going to, at some point after I get engaged, pose a very probing question to Google, such as wedding venues, or I might have searched for engagement rings or something like that. And Google is going to take stack in the fact that that's a meaningful search term for me. Or if I were looking to move, I might, let's say I'm based out of Boston, but if all of a sudden I start searching for apartments in Denver, that's a fairly meaningful search for me as a user. And Google is going to take note of that. We forget how much information we reveal about ourselves to Google just via our search results. But Google also has its feelers in our YouTube searches, our YouTube browsing history, our Gmail accounts. It reads those things to identify a profile of me, as well as it sees the websites I browse, particularly if I'm on Chrome or an Android device. That Google, for better or worse, knows a whole lot about all of us. And it's using that information to identify those things. So just like my team, here's plenty about my my upcoming wedding, as does Google. And that's where this information is coming from.
Awesome. And Mark, we've got time for just one more question here, and it's kind of broad. We've got a couple people asking if these changes are improvements or if they're just making things more complicated. You're the expert. You've been doing online advertising for a long time. Are you excited about these changes?
I'm honestly very excited about all of this stuff. This is one of those things that we see that there's so much additional insight beyond just our keywords that we use to target people via their device, via where they are, via their remarketing behaviors. And all of this stuff is going to provide us additional layers. This is not something that Google is necessarily going to force upon people, that if I straight up don't if in-market audiences or full life events are irrelevant to my business, this isn't going to be forced upon me, but this is going to allow advertisers where that is important to take advantage of it and treat their audiences slightly differently.
Wonderful. All right, Mark. Well, if you're excited, I'm excited, and everybody on the line, you guys should be excited too. This guy knows his stuff, so good things coming down the pipeline for you all. Um, so that about does it for our time for today. Like I said, like Mark said, WordStream will continue to be a great resource for you all as these announcements and these updates are rolled out. So definitely stay tuned to WordStream, head to our website, check out our free resources. You all will receive an email following today's presentation with a recording, the slide deck, as well as a link to our free AdWords performance grader. Really great free tool. You guys can use it. It takes less than a minute. It'll give you a score on your current AdWords performance. Super useful. Definitely will be great to benchmark your performance before all these big changes come. So thank you all for joining us. And Mark, thanks so much. You're a rock star.
Thanks, Michelle, and thanks everyone for joining.
All right. Bye, all.
Bye, everyone.